California.
Yeah, she's like, I love it. Yeah. Hey.
I bring the Parks and Recreation Committee to order. And over to you.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. The first item on the agenda is approval of the Leadership Dorchester's project scope. So the Leadership Dorchester class this year did select to do a nature playground or children's playground in Azalea Park. I know that you guys are somewhat familiar with that, but they have selected individual pieces that they'd like to put in the playground. So I'd like to introduce Ben Tupper from the leadership class so he can present those to you guys for approval.
Which one's which? Okay. How's everybody doing today? I'm Benjamin Tupper with Leadership Dorchester 2024. And here's the rest of my classmates, minus a few. Just no. And our project is the Azalea Park Children's Area. We named it the Children's Discovery Garden. The following two slides, you'll see a map. The one on the left is a broad view of Azalea Park, and the red circles where we're going to be working at. And then this one's a little bit more zoomed in. Same thing. Right here, you'll see two main areas for the equipment pieces. As you can see, it's very wooded, but it's also a bunch of land that we can put our project pieces on and have the kids play, and then just enhance this area for everybody else. No, you're fine. I was going to gotta go back one, go back. If you see the red circle, that top left, if you go to the first map, it's that top left corner. And this is where the main area is going to be. Those pictures just show where that area is that I just showed. These are some walking path areas that you'll see as you travel through, and these get you to the main area. The main piece of our project will be this painted turtle. It's made out of glass reinforced concrete. It costs about $12,340 plus shipping, which is shipping and taxes and all that stuff, with another piece of equipment that's followed is for another $4,000 on top of that. The dimension area of this turtle is 16.6 by 18 foot, and it's about 2 foot high, 4'6" wide, and 6 foot long. Second main piece is an amphitheater. And we'd rather do the amphitheater because we just find it way more useful than a playground, a playhouse. One, because it allows kids to use their imagination and collaborate with other children. It's more unique and useful in a variety of ways. And it's also safer than a playground, a playhouse. And one unique thing about this is Leadership Dorchester, we will be constructing this ourselves amongst me and my other 28 classmates. Something got out of whack. Anyhow, smaller equipment pieces that will be a part of this project is these stepping turtles. It costs about $2,300, and it goes along with the main turtle piece. Next, another piece of equipment will be these mushroom stuffers. It comes in a set of 3, small, big, and large, and it'll be about $4,800. And it also correlates with the turtles and the nature theme that we're shooting for. The Another piece is this balance beam is about 8 foot long and it sticks with our nature theme and it's about $6,888. Other zones that to be utilized for game and STEM activities is right here in the red circle. And this area will have these three-piece percussion playset, and we're going to use that. We kind of place it throughout, so it's not all grouped in one spot together, but kind of it's spread out enough where everybody can hear each other, but it's like not so you're not on top of each other. And that's about $12,000. And then we're gonna put some paver games out like hopscotch, so the kids that can run around and play, they can hopscotch as they're meandering through the playground and just have some fun. And we found this is a cheap and inexpensive way to incorporate an interactive activity. For seating, we're going to put wrap benches around the trees. We'll have two of them in the main playground, the main area. And this allows the parents to have a 360 line of sight to their kids. And it just has, and it keeps that cool nature feel to it. And this is the plaques we will be using for people that sponsor our equipment. And these plaques, they'll hold up for the test of time. They're concrete. And as you see there. And that is it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Need to make a motion on
Does anybody have any questions?
No. What's the time for completion?
Oh, we will have this completed by December 12th. We've already got some funding. We've already got the prices picked out. We got shipping timelines on that. It's just, we have to just fundraise some money so we can go ahead and get these things ordered.
Well, I thank you.
Thank you.
And my first thought was I was the class of 19 and we were the greatest class ever. And if you can pull this off, that might be threatened.
Love the idea.
Thank you.
The second and last item on the tonight's agenda is just the Azalea Park operating hours. We are in the process right now of updating maps and signage for that park. One of the reasons for that is to be able to include the Children's Discovery Garden and just some changes that have taken place in that park. The hours that are posted at the site are from dawn to 10 p.m. Most of our other facilities are dawn to dusk. I believe that it was probably done that way before the tennis courts. And I think that we could keep the tennis courts open later if we want to, have separate operating hours for the courts itself. But my recommendation would be for Azalea Park that we modify those hours to be consistent with all our other parks and do that dawn to dusk as well. And I just wanted to get y'all's thoughts or feedbacks as I prepare those signs.
I would agree with that. I don't.
Didn't I know we recently replaced some bulbs in that area, but what about the other lighting throughout the park, the Azalea Park? Do we have any lighting throughout the park?
There is lighting currently throughout both sides of the park, yes.
Okay. Yeah. I would agree with Bob. I think it should be consistent with all the parks.
Perfect. I will update those and get that updated when we post those. I don't have anything else unless you guys have something for me.
Oh,
Right.
do I hear a motion?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we move this forward to council.
We just need to adjourn.
I
That's-
make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor? Yeah. It's coming.
I call Planning and Development Committee to order and turn it over to Ms. Jessie.
Thank you. Good evening. We only have one item on the agenda. It's a request to rezone TMS numbers 13014130001 and 002, located at 110 and 112 Wiley Street, totaling approximately 1 acre and owned by Wendy G. Taylor from G5 General Residential 5 units per acre to NMX Neighborhood Mixed Use Council District 1. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for denial at their meeting on May 20th, 24. I do want to say that the applicant has officially requested to change the proposed zoning to NR, which is neighborhood residential, rather than NMX, based on the feedback received at the Planning Commission meeting.
So they've officially done that now, Jesse?
Sir?
So they've officially done that now?
They have officially requested that I present that to y'all as their change to their application.
And
And it was brought up at the planning commission meeting. It was actually recommended by one of the planning commission members to consider that change. Because there was a lot of concern from the neighbors about the potential of a commercial use should the proposed townhomes fall through. I can't say they were super excited about the townhomes either, but they were definitely worried about commercial uses.
So will I have to go back to the planning commission?
It does not, because it was discussed and one of the actual neighbors mentioned it as well. They can change, y'all can technically change what you are approving for the rezoning as long as the applicant's good with the change.
Without a public hearing or for that specific?
Yeah, like y'all can make the motion to recommend it to full council with the NR zoning rather than the NMX zoning.
Can you educate us and for the benefit of everybody here, what NR would allow?
Yes, sir. So NR is our neighborhood residential zoning district. So it allows for single family detached. It allows for townhomes and it allows for like 2 to 4 unit dwellings. It also does allow for mobile homes. It does not allow for a mobile home park, but it does allow for mobile homes. It does not have a minimum lot size associated with that zoning district, unlike the GR5, which does have the minimum lot size of 8,500 square feet.
I think just increasing the population right in that area and moving into what is now single families.
Exactly.
I just,
Every other house on that street is single family.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I kind of felt that as well. Wiley Street is kind of a smaller end street to dump the extra there in a cluster area as well.
and I think the change, if I look at it, commercial or mobile homes, neither one helps me out a whole lot. I'll make a motion, we pass it to council for denial.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second for
Deny it.
council with denial. Any other discussion? All in favor?
I
That is all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Motion is adjourned.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
The only time I can beat you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open up the Committee for Public Works. What do we have?
Right. Yes, the first item on the agenda is a request for one-way signage for the alleyways in Daniel's Orchard. And this is the newest part of Daniel's Orchard that was constructed after Sable Court and the rest of Daniel's Orchard was built. It came from a resident that lives on Sable Court and it was sent to council and council, passed it on to the committee. The drawing shows what is currently painted on the one-way alley. So it does have striping and it has the stop bars and the stop signs, but there is no, one-way signage or do not enter signage on the Sable Court end. So they're having an issue with cars turning down and coming the wrong way. So where I've highlighted is the areas to put one-way signage, and then they're at the exit in to have the do not enter sign. And then also that's not highlighted on the exhibit, but there is another where you see the stop bar, kind of where that circle is. So just go ahead and put another one-way signage there to clarify that you can only turn left
Mhm.
and go out and not turn right.
So right now it's already one way, fine? Right now, essentially, it's already a one-way street. It's just, we
It
we don't have
is-
signage up for it.
Exactly. I
Okay.
don't know. And we have accepted it. Those
Yeah.
are
Okay.
town roads.
Okay.
All right, well, I see no problem with that.
I mean, it's just a signage issue.
Yeah, it's just adding those additional signages.
Okay, do we need to vote on that?
I guess
Uh,
so.
We counsel that
Okay.
for signs.
Yeah, I think we would need to vote on that.
I'll move that we send this to council with the recommendation for approval.
Or do we need to send it or can
Did
y'all
you
just
cancel
approve it?
I
Can
don't
we
know. That's
just-
what I was asking.
I think we can just make a
Just to put the
motion.
signs.
We can
signs.
just approve that.
I didn't think so either.
Yeah, because it's already one way
Right.
as it
Yeah.
is. Okay,
All right.
Okay.
So
okay.
Sign away.
Add it?
Yeah.
All right.
Sign away.
Add more signs.
Do we need a second to that or?
All righty.
We know the motion.
Okay.
Okay, the next item is the quit claiming of DOT Road West Second South Street. And this is the portion of West Second South that's right out there from Main Street to Cedar.
Mhm.
And it's, with Dream doing their project that was presented last month, it would make the permitting a lot easier because their proposed gazebo and where it'll encroach into the right of way. So if it remains a DOT road, it'll just add another layer to that permitting. And plus, it's in good condition. I don't have an issue. It's about 680 feet long, a little over 1/10 of a mile. So it's just quit claiming it to the town.
Okay.
We want to accept it.
I would move to send this to full council with the recommendation for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and second to send it to full council for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
All right, and that's it.
that's it.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, okay, movement to adjourn. All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Good taste.
See if I can keep the pace up.
I will go ahead and call the Finance Committee meeting to order and turn it over to you, Ms. Rhonda.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Madam Administrator. You have before you the May financial report. We are 11 months into our fiscal year. We have 1 month left to go, or 20 days maybe. As you can see from the revenue summary, we collected just under $3 million in revenue for the month. Our year-to-date is just under 36 million. We're still, short, which we'll collect this next month of 3.6 million. We'll talk about some of those items in detail when we talk about the revenue. The expenditures, 3.6 million for the month, year-to-date, 4.42 million. We had transfers in, which is hospitality tax and state accommodations tax totaling 366,000, which brings our net deficit for the month just under 300,000 and year to date 3.5 million. Any questions on the summary page? Regarding our revenue summary, the first section is the property taxes. We have collected most of what we will have for the year. We're over about 4% or $600,000. We have a total, we'll collect, mainly it'll be vehicle property taxes next month, maybe a little bit of delinquent taxes. So we are, fortunately, we have met our budget and a little over in that area. Licenses and permits, we're trending along a little bit conservative in that area too. The two items in this section, which we will collect this particular month, are the Dominion franchise fees and the business licenses for insurance companies. Again, I reached out to MASC to see if I could get a number that we'll get in another week or two, but that seems to be very difficult to get ahead of time. So I feel like we'll meet those budget line items. Municipal court, we collected 32,000, bringing our total to 283. So we exceeded that budget amount already. State revenues, we're going to be short on Charleston County local option sales tax and a little over on Berkeley County. So I think it will even out as far as that goes. We'll probably generally be a little bit over budget as far as those collections. I think we're in good shape in all those categories. Next, Parks and Rec, for the month, we collected just under 47,000 in Parks and Rec fees for a year to date of 452. We budgeted 366, so we are ahead in that category. Miscellaneous revenues, 448 for the month, 2.5 million for a year to date. Again, we're we're a little over budget in that area. In the bottom section of the transfers, I went ahead and because I was able to estimate fairly close what our A-tax contribution would be. So I went ahead and recorded that. I generally don't record that till adjusting entries, but I wanted to try to get as much in as I could. So total revenues, 3.3 million for the year to date, 39 million. Any questions on revenues?
So you're feeling pretty good, Ms. Rhonda, about the license permits and fees block of.
I do. I meant to go look and see what we collected last year in June, and I forgot to do that before I came up here. But yeah, I feel pretty good about that. I think we got really close to 4 million last year.
Excellent.
Did you compare how we're ending this month with being over in our revenues to like the 25 budget? Did you compare how?
I've been updating my revenue spreadsheet pretty every month. I think I went ahead and did that. I don't have that. I can certainly send it to you.
Okay.
But yes, I have been kind of monitoring that because, as we proceed into, our fiscal year, if we need to make adjustments or anything, I want to be able to do that.
Thank you. Do you mind sending that to me, please, when you can?
Okay, sure. Okay, impact fees. Impact fees, we collected just right at 100,000 for the month between Parks, Rec, Fire, and Municipal. And of course, our year to date between all of those is 1.3 million. We've had, a few expenditures in different categories throughout for Parks and Rec, Fire, and Municipal. We are putting the Creech and Associates design work out of impact fees. So that is in that category. This is one category that I wish I could project, what we were going to be able to do, but it seems to be an enigma. Any questions on that? Hospitality tax. We collected 343,000 in hospitality and tourism grants. Year to date, it's 5.2, just under 5.3. We had expenses of course, 400,000 year-to-date at 5.2. We may leave, be a little short of our $6 million in revenue. Usually May and June what we collect in July is actually for the month of June. So there'll be some year-end accruals that will affect that a little bit. We'll be really close, but we could be just a tad short on those revenues. Local accommodations, we collected right at 51,000 for the month, year-to-date 391. Just as perspective, I went back and looked because this particular fund has grown in revenue. In 2019, for the year, we had 147,000 in revenue for local accommodations tax. And this year we'll be right at 450. We had 448 last year. So that's significant. Any questions about those items? Okay. Last fund is stormwater fund. We collected right at 14,000. Our expenditures were 159 for certainly a deficit of the month, which is normal. Our collections were just under 2.6, which is a little more than what he had budgeted. The expenditures are more than what we budgeted because we had some capital expenditures that we approved out of fund balance. It comes out of fund balance by flowing through our expenses for the year. So you end up with a deficit, and that's how it comes out of fund balance. However, I think rather than having a excess revenue, we'll just have more of a break even for that fund for the year. Does that make sense? Anybody have any other questions?
Any other questions for Ms. Rhonda? All right, well, we'll move on to budget discussion. Before I open it up, I just wanted to point out that we've passed first reading in our last council meeting, and we would like to have any changes that folks need or any concerns discussed ahead of Thursday. If we don't have everything pulled together by Thursday to approve second and final reading, we're going to need a special meeting called to get in line with our fiscal year. So just point that out. There's a slight sense of urgency here. So with that, I'll open the floor for any discussion that council members want to have. And Ms. Rhonda, thank you for staying there to answer.
I would like to say thank you to all of y'all for your input and to the department heads. This is definitely, it's a big undertaking, and we couldn't do this without, input from all of you.
I'll just echo that, Ms. Rhonda. Thank y'all for doing a good job of putting the budget together. And I don't have any other comments about the budget itself, other than I'd like to get it done Thursday too, as if at all possible.
All right, hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Rhonda. And again, for us not adjusting our millage rate and fitting all the things in that you fit in, I really appreciate the hard work.
Kudos to the department heads.
Excellent job all.
Next is discussion of state accommodations tax advisory committee's recommendation for 2024 ATAX funding. Y'all do have those in front of you.
Do I hear any questions, concerns?
Yes. I have concerns. First, I'd like to thank the committee who works hard on this. I know this isn't easy, and you take the biggest chunk of it away from us, so I appreciate that greatly. And I think I was going to bring it up this time, but as per your request, I'll move forward this year with the way it is, particularly since the committee's already rolled and people are already ready to get their money. But I think we need to look at the purpose of this and how many, some of these I question how many people are really coming from out of town for it. And I guess what I'd like the focus to go to is, what are these organizations doing to help the actual citizens in the town? And have a recorded some way to confirm where these people are coming from, because I can sit down and write 1,000 zip code people pretty easy. And this is a lot of money, particularly some of them. So, and I don't know, Lisa, do we get a report on exactly where the money made from these events goes?
Mr. Jackson, not that I'm aware of. I know years ago, before we would reconsider funding for the next year, there had to be some kind of a report that the organization had to provide that would basically say, I had this many people come to my event and this is the way I collected that data. I'm not sure if we still require that.
We do if it's a repeat event. We'll
Okay.
ask for their receipts from that event from the previous year.
Okay.
A lot of applicants actually do still turn in their information after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see a requirement and maybe a review of what we ask on there, more detail. Because in some ways, I feel like we do this and the money just evaporates. And I know we had one event and we realized we were paying like better than $1,000 for each person they brought into town. I'm like, well, we'll just send out a thing and says, if you come down, we'll give you $100, and we would have came out ahead. So I would definitely like to review that and for this year, just standing by what I just said without changing too much. I would like to take 5,000. Well, first, Meals on Wheels got cut pretty much. And when you talk about the things I would like to fund, this is prime. We're actually having an organization, we know where the money goes. It goes in our citizens' mouth. They are feeding these people, and not only feeding them, these people have, for a large part, have nobody to talk to.
Well,
This is their family.
will share, Mr. Jackson, that, part of the requirement, and this is in state statute, has to specifically draw in tourism.
Mhm.
So we have to be sure that we're carefully making sure that that's what these funds are going for.
Yep, and I think a pickleball tournament will be pretty successful. And I would also like to take 5,000 from the Somerville Orchestra outreach marketing. Because I would rather feed somebody than send out ads to come to an event. And there was also an additional request for 5,000 from the YMCA to go to Sculpture in the South.
We do have members from the committee present that may wish to have a comment. Please be happy to hear directly from y'all. Y'all worked on the process and helped us with the evaluation of these applications. So thank you.
Councilman Jackson's request is very timely because we're talking about how to make the process more transparent. And the chairman has actually assigned me to go out and find out what other communities are doing. So.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, and particularly the pickleball, we were all, yeah, for that one. And then we found out they're having it out of town.
It wasn't.
Oh,
So,
no, that would be a caveat.
yeah, so we were trying to figure out how to make that work. But,
Really tried.
and so we said, well, we can't say that they won't maybe stay in a few hotels in town. So we just did a compromise, unfortunately. It wasn't exactly what we wanted, but.
I will say that every year that I've been on, 3 years, the folks that apply have gotten more and more creative about how they count the actual folks that are out of town. They've really come up with some great ideas. And we pushed them to do that. But I mean, I think this year we kind of had a double sift of what are the things in their budget that we're actually by law allowed to fund? And then secondarily, what's the percentage of people out of town that they are claiming? So your remarks are very timely.
And
We didn't know, like, the Italian feast. I mean, nobody's counting if they're in town or out of town. I think it's free. So I mean, it was just, it's like a
However, it was interesting, one of the hoteliers who's on the committee,
Yes.
she knew that weekend jumped.
It jumped.
So we knew we got heads and beds on that weekend.
Somebody's coming from somewhere.
So I mean, we've tried to weigh that as we've gone along.
You might have answered that question. We don't ask them how many. We run it through our businesses and hotels, and that'll speak for itself.
If they have tickets, they're starting to track it, like they have zip codes from, and actually, I think, was it Flower Town Festival actually is looking at tracking with cell phones.
Place
Yeah, I think,
Place coding, caching, so they're getting smarter about it,
yeah, I think the
because they know we're asking
telephone,
the question.
because that's verifiable. And I guess what I would change my motion to is for Meals on Wheels. If they bring that into town, we will move that money to their account.
Right. And we were, I think we mentioned that and we, you know, we're not against your motion either. We just did what we could at the time.
Yeah, it's just, y'all do a great job. And I need a real good reason to go against any of our committees. But this time, I just look at the amounts of money and how much it actually goes to help our citizens. And these people are hungry and want some socialization. And I think that's really important.
We're, you know, we did take a little more time this year and looked at the exact reason why you qualify for the money. If you don't qualify, that was, you had to had something to hang your hat on. So we read those out and we tried to stick with that all the way through it. And the other thing is Deb, before the meeting, I asked her to please start looking at what is Hilton Head doing? Everyone's got the same state law, okay? What are they doing with A-tax? And some people are actually combining their H-tax with their A-tax. I mean, some people are just letting the council do it. So it's what we're
It's all
getting
over the
back
place.
is a mixed bag. But
Some
we're
have-
checking Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson,
Some-
Rock Hill.
Some of the communities have tools they use to sift that we're gonna evaluate. We're gonna have a meeting mid-year and kind of see whether that's a direction we want to go.
Come up with a matrix.
If I could be involved in that, please,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
could invite me.
That'd be great.
And
Me too.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll let
good.
you know.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I have a question. The sculpture in the south, the Just Chillin' sculpture, isn't that already paid for?
It was,
The remainder, I think.
I think it was total of 50,000 was what
Yeah.
I recall seeing. The whole thing was 50,000. So I think some funds that were collected didn't pay for all of it. That's
Oh, I
what's
see.
still on.
This was the last payment on the sculpture.
Oh, I
Right.
see. So we had put that much out probably last year also.
And I would say,
You're right.
Okay.
and I would say, I would love to see more money in the future go to sculpture in the South because that is just a past due balance. And it's an organization that I feel certain people come in town to see those. It's something that sets our town apart. And I know they have projects coming up in the future that they have not had funding for that. So I would have liked to have seen some more money go toward that, as well as in the future, the Southport Artist Residency. I know they definitely bring people in. That's what they're all about. And of course, the Somerville Parks Foundation, I know we're working on several great things. So those are three that I really feel like would be great.
I think,
We gave sculpture
We gave
100%.
sculpture, we gave sculpture and the visiting artist program, everything they asked for, I believe.
Yeah,
So,
And last year sculpture applied, but we couldn't give them what they asked for because there was nobody there the application was not filled out correctly and there was nobody there to talk about it. They didn't know to come to the meeting, but we got all that straight. Please be at the meeting. And I made a personal phone call, please be at the meeting. And they were here with bells on. They were 15 minutes early and they got everything they asked for.
yeah, and I think that extra money, they are right now working on 2 projects for 2 heroes from the town.
well, and that,
And
yeah, and we're allowed to fund facilities, and we saw that as a facility. It stays with the city, you know, and it's a permanent part of the city.
they don't have funding
Like,
for those
like
yet.
other building, additions that we can fund.
and that's why I said it, because this is just the final payment on what they did before. The 5,000 would be a little bit of a kick to help them get these 2 new projects moving along.
But thank
Right.
you.
In years past, y'all have made some adjustments and no feelings hurt over
No.
here, trust me. If you see better uses.
We're here at your pleasure.
But
so.
we try to vet it for you.
Any
So
other
you,
questions?
I guess, does the committee agree with the thought process?
Okay.
And can we give them
There's
5,000?
more questions.
I got another question too, Mr. Pratt.
Hey, wait,
Not yet.
Sorry,
Yeah, y'all,
I was waiting on.
you volunteered.
From just a procedural standpoint, just looking down the list, like Public Works Arts Center has 3 requests. And we funded, a big, large chunk of all 3 of them. Yeah, those funds have to then go just only to that specific request. In other words, did y'all work with them throughout the process to say, okay, we can't give you 100% for this amount, but we can give you 50 for this one and then 25 for the other and 20.
Count on Beth to make sure that they're spending it where they say they're going to, if that's your
Right.
question. Yeah.
But no, I guess the question is, do we go to them and say, okay, listen, y'all can, for the free admissions, we'll fund 50%, but we'll also fund the block party. Do they have an opportunity to say, no, just give us a 17.3 towards the free admission program? I guess.
They would have that opportunity, but they didn't. And
Yeah, right. I was just curious as to the procedure of it.
And there's been times where they've put in multiple applications
Mhm.
and we've said no to some
Right,
and,
right.
and yes to others. So.
right. Okay.
If that answers.
Yes, ma'am, it
question.
does. Yeah, that's perfect.
Overall, we had 708,234
Right.
in requests and we had 520,000 to spend. So we could only fund by percentages, 26% had to be cut somewhere. So
Mhm.
we tried to.
Yeah,
And
thank y'all
again,
for what
y'all
you
see
did, for
differently.
sure.
All good.
Sure. I'm sure it's a task that it's not fun to take on, and thank y'all for doing it.
Hold up.
One second.
You still got one more too.
I can see in your hurry to run. And the last thing I want to do is be a Monday morning quarterback, I promise. But can you speak a little bit about the meatball run? Because I know the race for the architect is a fairly large race and they're getting about a third of what the meatball run is. And I've never heard of the meatball run.
You got me there.
I
Matt. I'm
don't
looking this
know
one
that
up.
I remember the specifics.
What number is it on here? About?
It's Italian Fest.
Yeah, I understand it's Italian Fest, but
Yeah.
Oh, the
it's under the
Italian Fest?
Italian Fest.
Italian Fest meatball run.
Y'all actually funded all of what the ARC race for the ARC requested.
Yeah. We didn't short them.
yeah, I understand that. I wish they would ask for more and the
Yeah.
meatball run would ask for less.
And again, if y'all see reasons to do that, I mean, that's truly on you. But we think that's been very successful for Somerville, bringing a lot of people in. So we thought that was a good one.
Yeah, understood, but okay. So they requested $34,000.
I think that's what they got.
Well, they got 23
23.
and some change. Yes, ma'am. And again, I don't want to be Monday morning quarterback. I'm just,
All right, well, I'd like to make a motion that we give the Meatball Run 5K 2,500 to match the ARC 5K to be equal for both the 5Ks. I'd recommend, I'd second Bob's motion to take 5,000 from the YMCA Flowertown Festival and give that additional 5,000 to Sculpture in the South, as I understand his motion.
All right.
Oh, and I,
Are you making
no, I
a motion or are you
seconded.
making a motion to amend? You,
Ah.
okay, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
we had a motion by Councilman Jackson. You are amending that motion,
That's
correct?
correct. So
right.
I'm amending his motion,
Yep.
For the 2,500, for the Meatball Run 5K to match the ARC's 5K of what we're funding them. To take 5,000 from the Flowertown Festival and give that additional 5,000 to Sculpture in the South and rest of his.
Yeah, we'll vote on yours first.
Okay.
Vote on the whole.
And he also had a motion to take 5,000 from the Flowertown Festival to put to Meals on Wheels only if they have the pickleball tournament in Somerville, correct? Is that how? So we've got a motion and a second.
Can I say something real quick? The sculpture in the south was fully funded for their request. I don't know that we can give them more than what their application says.
That was the question I asked,
Yeah.
and we're just waiting for everything to. Lisa?
Would that be an issue in the statute somewhere? And if so, we should pull up the statute and read that.
I can share that we have not typically given more money than an organization is requesting.
We
I
know
don't
that
know that
they-
we definitely, I don't know that it's against the law or anything, but we have typically not given more than what was requested.
I think what'll happen is they're gonna end up asking for money anyways, because there's two projects going on, like the Fallen Soldier, and there's two projects going on that they do not have all the funding for. So what's gonna happen is they're gonna end up coming and asking for more funding anyways.
Is there an anticipated time frame for this?
One is nearing a completion time, been designed and all, and that will go into one of our parks and recreation facilities. And then the other is just in the concepts, talk about range, but the first one should be short.
Not that I'm objective to that, but because these applications are for specific things and it's just talking about this particular sculpture, would that be right to give the extra 5,000? Maybe we just hold back 5,000 and wait instead for them to come forward.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna pause us right here just because I'm getting confused on where we are. Before we have another discussion, we have a motion. A second was given by Tiffany or Councilwoman Johnson Wilson and to amend it. Do we have a second on the motion to amend? All right, so we have a motion and a second on the amendment. All right, now we're discussing the amendment, and we're not going to amend the amendment till we discuss, because it's growing beyond my scope of intelligence.
I have one more thing. Is anybody from Meals on Wheels here tonight? I can go grab their application, but I believe they already have their date set for the pickleball tournament that they applied for funding for. So I don't know that they would move it into another facility after this.
Was there any discussion on the 5K with the meatball run versus the ARC? The difference in the funding?
Can I ask, just for clarification, how much did we just propose to cut with the motion? How much total I was trying to add the numbers as we were talking and I
It
got
looked
lost.
like, to me, I had two $5,000 buckets from the Flower Town Festival.
Two
It's-
funds. So
yeah.
that's 10,000 right there. And then we had a 4,000 from the meatball. And where else were we pulling money from? Who else were we pulling money from?
I think that was it.
The orchestra market.
And how much were we pulling from that one? Another 5,000.
But we were not pulling that, were we?
So
Or
we,
were we?
we're pulling 19,000 total and y'all forgive me, it's just the way my mind works with math. We're pulling 19,000 that we just pulled and we're gonna give that back to who?
To
That's 17,100 total that we'd be pulling.
Well, if we had 10,000 from the Y and 4,000 from the meatball and 5,000 from orchestra. That's,
Can I further complicate things?
please.
We're not talking about a lot of dollars. I hold, some money back. We don't distribute every penny,
Right.
from that year. And we'll be collecting more during this next year. There's nothing that says we can't have another committee meeting or receive another round of applications or anything like that during the year. And Lisa and I talked about some other projects that may need that funding that we might need the committee to meet on. An option if you want to put those off a little bit or.
So does the statute not require that we spend that money?
Yeah,
allocated?
Rhonda, I do think, I agree with where you're going, but perhaps we look at the local accommodations tax piece for that instead of the state, because I do agree it is, you know, they require an annual report and we are required to spend X amount of dollars. So to keep it maybe a little cleaner, maybe if we had to look for some other funds to look at the local accommodations tax. But I
Correct.
think I did like where you two were going. If you want to pull back on the monies that you all were thinking of deducting, keep that pool at least for another 30 to 60 days if you wanted to revisit. And I think that'll still give us time to adequately provide the information to the State Oversight Committee. Does that give us enough time, Beth? Okay. Does that make sense?
It does. And
Like that idea.
Could we then go to like Sculpture in the South with these that they're finished working on that they need funding for and ask them to resubmit an application?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
So if we pool that money
Mhm.
and just hold it, can we go back to, well, any organization that anybody wants, but like we know the Sculpture in the South has projects that they're finishing up that they're gonna need funding on. Could we then go back to them and ask them to resubmit?
Yes, yes. If you're holding back, say, $20,000, I think it would be fine to ask these specific organizations to resubmit something for council to review, unless you want to bounce it back through the ATAX committee.
In
Okay,
lieu of the
okay.
new information,
Mhm.
and I think my stirring the confusion got me where I wanted to be anyway. I withdraw my motion and I like Matt and Richard's idea.
And then I have
We'll,
one
we'll
more
just do
thing.
this and then we'll look in the future to what we do with the others.
Okay, so we have a withdrawn motion by Councilman Jackson.
If you want.
Well, and so,
Are you gonna?
so I would draw mine and then then there would be a new motion, right?
Correct, all right,
I would
But I
draw
have
mine.
one more question
okay.
for the committee. Is the reason that Juneteenth didn't get funded at all, is that because they just didn't have any documentation of how, what people they're drawing in, like where are they from?
Felt like the application wasn't done well. We couldn't figure it out. It wasn't something to talk about.
Okay. Okay, and there was no one there to answer questions. Okay. All right.
going back to Mr. Jackson, what the five, we had the YMCA, the meatball, and who was the other 5,000 coming from?
The orchestra marketing, but I withdraw my,
Yeah, I got you. I just wanted, I couldn't remember what.
and I'll make a motion that we approve the state accommodation tax as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as submitted and recommended by the committee. Any other discussion?
Just let those applying know that next year it may be.
I just, my discussion point before we vote is that I really want to thank the committee for your hard work. I saw the packages, Ms. Meservey, fantastic job on pulling those books together to help educate them. Those are massive and you organized them quite well. There were a lot of applications. As you see, it's a heavy lift and you filtered them well, considering all the information and investigation you had to do. Another thing, as we move towards this process improvement, which I'm excited for, I agree with you, Councilman Jackson. If we can do it better, we certainly want to do it better and help it be more data driven. We don't want to be emotionally picking favorites, but more data driven approach to accomplish what it's really intended to accomplish within our town. And then the last point, as we start thinking of how we want to cut, we need to have a deep understanding of what each organization is doing with the money, because I know we use the YMCA as an example, but they spend over $200,000 on our services. So they pay the town over $200,000 to operate the Flower Town Festival. So as we cut into this, they're just going deeper in the hole. So I just want us to think about that. But anyway, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
So just so I'm clear, we're right back exactly to where we were 30 minutes ago.
Yes, sir.
I just can't, I can't cut the request from child advocacy, for example, and give the meatball run 2.5 times what we're giving the ARC. And I don't want to derail us again, trust me.
My perception of this, just because we're engineers, is I don't look at the dollar figure. I look at the percentage of request. And I measure the percentage of request. The ARC percentage of request is higher than the others.
Understood. And I would encourage them, if you're from the ARC, to request a lot more money next year.
I think that's worthwhile.
But I would still like to fully fund child advocacy. And I don't really care what pot that comes out
I
of.
guess I have another question. We can delay this, correct? Lisa? I guess I make a motion, we discuss this and bring it back up.
We have to deal with.
Well,
the
we
first
have a motion and a
first.
second for the approval.
I'll withdraw that motion and motion, we delay it till next month.
I will second that motion.
All right, motion and a second to delay till next month, and I'm confirming with staff. We have no time constraints when it comes to that. We're perfectly good.
I have to look at the applications just in case anybody had an event in July.
Okay, well, we will,
So we can always add it on Thursday.
it'll at least be delayed till Thursday for full council. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll talk about it on either Thursday or next month.
Next is a request from the police department, the following two retired members of the Somerville Police to be presented their service weapons. Lieutenant Jason Forsyth with his Glock 9mm duty weapon serial number BMW W924, and Sergeant Shannon Sharp with his Glock 9mm duty weapon serial BMW W853.
I'll make a motion, we approve that.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item E, surplus and sell the following police department vehicles. Number 252, a 2013 Dodge Charger with mileage of 133,700. Number 253, a 2013 Dodge Charger with mileage of 113,840. And number 304, a 2014 Dodge Charger with mileage of 108,803.
I'd like to say, while we've been discussing our capital improvement plan and the funding for that capital improvement plan, I'd like us to go ahead, I'd like to make a motion that we establish a capital fund for the police department, the stormwater and the fire department, separate capital funds. And that as these items are surplus for the police department, that those go into the capital fund for the police department. As these items are surplus for the stormwater department, they go into the capital fund for the stormwater department. And as the items are surplus for the fire department, they go into the capital fund for the fire department.
Would that affect our budget that we are approving?
We don't usually put in the budget for sale of assets. Around $100,000, I think, is what we generally put in there. And I can't remember where we are exactly right now, but
I guess my thought is, do we do that now or do we do that at the meeting?
This, to me, this sounds like a policy, a new policy on how we handle capital assets. Maybe we want to request a draft be prepared for a policy, but we probably need to stick to the business at hand and not mix the two yet, unless you want to delay this. You know, we want to review and adopt a new policy for how we handle capital expenditures and the sale of property or the sale of assets, that we probably need a firm policy in place for that.
That's probably correct. And we can always go back and reassign some of the revenue that we collected into those funds. Stormwater, it automatically goes in the stormwater fund regardless, so it's not going anywhere. But we can, once we get a capital plan and kind of look at that on a more detailed basis, then I think we can go back and we can look at what the revenue is that we took in from these and reassign it.
Well, I'm thinking beginning the new fiscal year, like, we're starting out on a new fiscal year next month. So as we surplus items, I feel like if it's for the police department or parks department or fire department or stormwater, that should be set aside to go into the capital fund for those departments.
We can do that. Certainly, we can do that. And I can work on a capital plan or borrow one from somebody and edit it to our needs.
Do you think we can have that by Thursday or no?
No.
Okay.
I've got auditors here this week.
All right. I knew that was asking a lot.
Sorry.
I don't disagree, but I think we have a lot more changes coming than that. And so I'll make a motion that we approve this for now and redo our capital plan so that it is identified.
I do agree with the notion that our council woman is making. These are two separate items that we approved the sale of these, but then we also set up a capital fund for respective departments. I know that the police department has some very specific needs for which are not being funded this year, that this money could go toward the fire department as well.
I have a motion we approve.
Wait, well, hold on just a second. We had a motion.
So I will withdraw my motion and wait on the policy change to be implemented soon.
All righty. And did you prepare yours in the form of a motion?
I can.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve item E as written.
Second.
All right, approve item E as written. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, did you say something?
Nope.
I'm sorry. Someone second, council.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I
Alright.
do think this might be a way to get some of these items by the police, fire, parks funded without waiting maybe till next budget year.
Okay. And finance is going to prepare a policy for council's consideration when we get beyond this budget process. Okay.
I think from what Ms. Rhonda was saying, is this is just these surpluses are already anticipated in our annual budget through the sale of assets that we have every year. These cars, something just to consider as we're talking about this. These three cars that we just, I think we just voted and got the vote through to surplus are 2013. They're 10 and 11 years old with over 135,000 miles on them. So, we're talking about bringing in maybe $7,000 or $8,000 right here compared to the 65,000 that one of these vehicles cost.
As far as this budget year, we've met our budget on sale of assets. I budgeted 75,000. I mean, I'm not going to budget a ton of money in that category anyhow. So we've met that. So, we certainly can, go back and reassign whatever these proceeds end up being, for next year. That's not a problem. The one thing that, you as a body will have to consider is we can set the policy up to start with this, but I would think that you'd want to look for another funding source to add more substantial dollars.
Absolutely, of course.
So that part of the policy will be blank or to be determined.
Well, we still have to, we've talked about that. We still have to determine a funding source, what we want to, how much we want to fund and where we want it to come from. But this is at least a small drop, and there are some small purchases or smaller purchases that, you know, a year's worth of surplus could purchase, like a side by side for the police department that wasn't funded, things like that.
No, absolutely. So
All right.
Oh,
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Item F is surplus and sell W-117, a 2004 Chevy Silverado from Stormwater. The replacement vehicle has already been purchased. This vehicle is 20 years old and has over 120,000 miles. The proceeds will be deposited to the Stormwater Fund balance.
move for approval of the surplus.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item G, surplus and sell fire and rescue vehicle FDV 0008, a 2007 Ford F-350 with an E1 rear body and 99,885 miles.
Move for approval of the surplus.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Selling the squad.
Item H, authorization to issue a purchase order to Amic Equipment in the amount of $313,238 for a street sweeper for the Streets Department. This is on state contract and funds will come from budgeted ARPA funds.
Move for
Mr. Mayor, I
approval.
make a motion.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Authorization for the town administrator to renew the existing contract with Russell Landscape for maintenance services of the 199 interchange, Bear Island Road, North Maple Street, and Main Street medians for July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, in the amount of $137,391.
I'll make a motion. We approve that.
I'd like to say that,
Second.
Before, yeah, I was gonna say, before we, so I don't get lost, I was gonna make sure you have a second. Motion and
Second.
second discussion. Councilwoman.
yeah, this is in my district and the owners of Weatherstone have made it clear that they were unhappy with the maintenance of the landscaping of Bear Island Road. So I'm going to vote that we approve this for now, but that, they have this 1 year to improve their services. And I'll follow back up with my constituents through my newsletter or texting campaign to make sure that they are seeing those improvements and that, so I will approve it for now, but I do want to make sure that that's in the minutes, that we're expecting improvements on that.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Finance Committee executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I move we go into executive session to discuss personnel matters related to the town administrator search and personnel matters related to the municipal court.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.